The twin suns of Nura cast long lines of light across the golden marble of the Galactic Council chamber. Thousands of lights floated above the vast hall, yet an eerie quiet filled the air. This was no ordinary meeting, no public gathering broadcast to the galaxy. This session had been called in secret, closed to every civilian and even most military leaders. Only the highest members of the council were present, the speakers of worlds, the heads of species, and the keepers of forbidden knowledge. The tension in the air was heavy enough to crush thought itself. The speaker of the council, an old alien with silver skin and eyes like glass, stood at the center of the circular table. His voice was low, calm, but the tremor beneath it betrayed his fear. "You all saw the transmission," he said. The room stayed silent. In front of them, a holographic projection floated in the air, a broken signal repeating again and again. Static crackled through the chamber as 3 words pulsed in white light across the image: "Earth has awakened." A whisper ran through the room. The name alone was enough to chill every being present. Earth, the silent planet, the isolated species, the world that once stood against the galaxy and vanished into myth. The message was verified, asked a reptilian general, his scaled claws tapping nervously against the table. The speaker nodded slowly. Confirmed by the deep-range observatories near the outer rim. A human signature. Power readings unknown. Origin, Terran space. The general hissed. "Impossible. That system has been dead for centuries. We burned their fleets, we erased their codes." The speaker raised his gaze. "And yet here we are. Someone, or something, is broadcasting from that dead system again." The chamber filled with low murmurs. Some scoffed, others trembled. Only one voice rose above the rest, deep and old, belonging to the Van historian seated at the edge of the table. His skin was pale gray, his breathing slow and deliberate. "You speak of them as if they were ghosts," he said softly. "But you forget, they were not erased. They were buried. Their name was forbidden because it carried power. There was a reason your ancestors sealed their language." The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Elder Van, you speak dangerously." The old historian didn't stop. "Perhaps danger is what you need to remember. Do you know what humans called themselves before the council named them Earthborn?" The speaker's voice rose sharply. "Enough. You will not. We once knew their true name," the Van elder said quietly. The entire chamber went still. It was as if the air itself stopped moving. The speaker turned toward the guards. "Remove him." But before they could, the hologram behind them flickered. The words "Earth has awakened" vanished, replaced by a single pulse of light, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The sound echoed through the floor. Every console flickered at once. Every device on the table dimmed. "What is this?" shouted one technician. "Unknown interference," another cried. The hum grew louder, resonating through the walls until even the stars outside the glass dome seemed to tremble. Then, as quickly as it started, it stopped. The silence that followed felt alive. The Van elder looked up slowly, his black eyes shining. "You see," he whispered. "Even speaking of them wakes the echo." "You are insane," spat the Zyrax general, his scaled face twitching. "Humans are dust. Their worlds are ash. And yet their name remains," said the elder. "That is what you never understood." The speaker turned to his counselors, his tone sharp. "Seal the record. Lock all archives relating to this system. This meeting never happened." But curiosity is a dangerous thing, and arrogance even more so. That night, the speaker ordered a private team of archivists to access the old Terran records, files buried beneath centuries of encryption. They descended into the vaults of the central data spire, a structure older than the council itself. Deep underground, the temperature dropped. The light panels dimmed as they entered the forbidden sector. "I thought these archives were sealed permanently," one archivist muttered. "They are," said another. "By the speaker's authority only." They reached the final gate, a door of solid black metal with an ancient warning etched in gold. To speak their name is to summon remembrance. The archivists exchanged uneasy glances. "What does that even mean?" one asked. "It means we're about to find out," said the lead technician. They opened the gate. Inside was a single glowing terminal, its surface covered in dust. It hummed faintly as if something within was still alive. The technician brushed off the dirt and powered it up. The screen lit with blue light, displaying lines of code written in a language none of them had seen before. It wasn't Council standard. It wasn't any alien dialect. It was human. The code pulsed with rhythm, as if it were breathing. "Translate it," ordered the lead archivist. "Carefully." The AI translation system began to work, decoding the symbols one by one. Then, at the very end, it stopped. The screen flashed white, and a single word appeared in the Terran tongue, a word the AI refused to translate. "What is it?" whispered one of the archivists. The lead technician stared at the display, his voice trembling. "It's their true name." "Translate it." "It won't let me. It says, 'Forbidden pattern detected.'" "Override it." The technician hesitated, then entered the override command. The system obeyed. The word translated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the room filled with light. The walls shook as a deep vibration echoed through the ground. Every system in the archive tower went online. Across the city above, alarms blared. Satellites malfunctioned, power grids flickered. The stars themselves dimmed, their light bending unnaturally. The archivists screamed as the light around them turned blue-white, flooding their eyes and minds. They saw shapes, memories, not their own. Fleets burning through space. Voices in human tongues. Worlds forged in light. And in the center of it all, a figure, tall, human, eyes like fire. The word they had spoken wasn't a name. It was a key. A sound older than any civilization. A frequency that resonated with the fabric of reality itself. The data cores exploded, and the lights went out. Above, in the council chamber, the speaker watched the city's systems fail one by one. "Report," he shouted. "What's happening?" A trembling aide ran in. "The archive vault. It's gone. The signal spread through the network. We can't stop it." The speaker's blood ran cold. "Shut everything down. Disconnect planetary communications now." But it was too late. The signal had already escaped. From Nura to the outer colonies, every beacon, every satellite, every ship received the same pulse. Some systems died instantly. Others began broadcasting a strange tone, rhythmic, haunting, alive. The speaker stared at the stars through the chamber dome. They were dimming again. "What have we done?" he whispered. In the darkness below the city, deep in the ruins of the archives, the Varn Elder stood among the dust, watching the last flickers of the dying lights. He alone had survived the blast. His voice was soft, trembling with awe. "It has begun," he said. Across the galaxy, strange things started happening. Old probes long thought lost reactivated, transmitting coordinates that pointed directly toward Earth. Derelict human ships, drifting for centuries, suddenly changed course and began moving with purpose. In the farthest corners of known space, black holes began to pulse faintly in sync with the signal. Scientists tried to explain it as a cosmic anomaly, but the truth could no longer be ignored. The universe was responding. Somewhere, in the cold silence of the Sol system, something ancient stirred. Deep beneath Earth's crust, machines older than the Council awakened. Their lights came on, one after another, glowing with the same blue hue as the signal spreading across the galaxy. A voice, not human yet entirely familiar, spoke through the static. Designation recognized. Authorization restored. Command level, origin. The Earth's magnetic field flared, creating a storm of energy that reached the edges of space. Every telescope, every sensor turned toward the solar system, picking up impossible readings, frequencies that matched no known spectrum. And among them, buried deep in the noise, was a whisper in Terran language. "We hear you." Back on Nura, the speaker sat alone in the dark council hall, staring at the flickering hologram still repeating those three words, "Earth has awakened." His voice cracked as he whispered to himself, "What does their name mean?" The Varn Elder's words echoed in his mind, To speak their name is to summon remembrance. The speaker shivered as realization struck. The name wasn't meant for them to understand. It was meant for the universe. And the universe had answered. The Council tried to send a fleet toward Earth, but every ship that crossed the boundary of the solar sector vanished without trace. No distress calls. No debris. Nothing. It was as if space itself swallowed them whole. On the fourth day, the stars near Nura dimmed again, this time for longer. The Council scientists reported a strange energy reading approaching their system. A wave of gravity unlike anything recorded before. "It's like something remembering itself," said one terrified researcher. As the wave passed, the stars brightened, but their positions had shifted. The constellations were different. Space had rewritten itself. The speaker looked up, heart pounding. "They are rewriting the galaxy," he whispered. And far away, beyond the reach of their telescopes, a single blue light began to move, slowly, deliberately, toward them. Earth had heard its name. And now, it was coming. The next day began with silence. No alarms, no reports, no Council broadcasts. Just the quiet hum of systems struggling to recover from the previous night's shockwave. The twin suns of Nura rose over the capital, casting light across a city that looked alive but sounded dead. No air traffic moved in the sky, no voices filled the streets. Every citizen could feel it. Something was wrong with the air itself. It felt heavy, as if reality had forgotten to breathe. In the Grand Council chamber, the speaker stood surrounded by chaos. Technicians shouted, devices sparked, data streams refused to stabilize. "Why can't we restore communications?" he barked. "We have backups for every system." "We did," a trembling engineer replied, "but the signal is replicating. Every time we reset the network, it reappears. It's not a virus. It's something else." "Then shut it down manually." "We tried. It doesn't exist on our systems. It's broadcasting from outside the grid." "Outside?" the speaker repeated, his voice cold. "Where outside?" The engineer hesitated. "Everywhere." The word fell like a weight in the air. The speaker stared at him, unblinking. "What do you mean everywhere?" "The signal isn't coming from a location," the engineer said, voice breaking. "It's inside the spectrum itself, like the universe is humming it." The chamber went quiet. No one moved. The Van Elder, standing in the corner, spoke softly. "I told you. You spoke their name. And now the stars remember it." The speaker slammed his fist on the table. "Enough of your riddles. What is this signal?" The elder closed his eyes. "It's not a signal. It's a heartbeat." The technicians stared at their screens as readings began to spike again. Every planet, every moon, every outpost in their network reported the same phenomenon. Identical pulses echoing across space at perfect intervals. Each pulse was followed by brief power surges, as if the fabric of the universe was vibrating. Then something strange happened. The Council's main world sensor detected movement, not ships, not fleets, but gravitational shifts across multiple systems. Stars were flickering, as if their light was being bent. "It's like they're looking at us," whispered one of the aides. Within hours, entire sectors began to lose contact. Long-range stations near the edge of the galaxy went dark. Colonies that had stood for centuries went silent mid-transmission. No debris, no distress call. Just nothing. The Council ordered emergency fleets to investigate, but the ships never reported back. It was as if the void had swallowed them whole. By the fourth hour, panic started to set in. Across Nura, civilians flooded the temples, praying to any god that would listen. The speaker addressed the Council, his voice trembling beneath the illusion of control. "We are dealing with an unknown force. We will contain it. Humanity is gone. This is just a reaction." But his words had no strength. The generals stared at the holomap, watching entire sectors blink out one by one. A Van scientist spoke up. "If this continues, the entire communication grid will collapse. We'll be blind." The speaker turned sharply. "Then shut down the gates. Isolate Nura. We'll protect what's left. Protect from what? The scientist whispered. The speaker had no answer. That night, Neura's twin suns dimmed for the first time in recorded history. Astronomers stared in disbelief as solar readings dropped by 20%. The suns are flickering, said one of them, voice shaking. It's impossible. They can't. He stopped. The room's windows darkened as the light outside vanished completely. The stars were gone. Not clouded, not hidden, gone. The universe had turned black. Then a sound filled the air, faint but unmistakable. It wasn't a tone, not a frequency. It was a whisper, a voice that spoke in every language at once, not from the air, but from inside their minds. You spoke our name. The astronomers froze. One fell to his knees, clutching his head. The whisper grew louder, filling every building, every machine, every heart. You remembered the word. So now, we remember you. Lights across Neura exploded, and every screen filled with static. Then images appeared, fragments of memories not their own. Fleets burning under human fire. Worlds turning red. The ancient war the Council had erased returned in blinding clarity. They saw humans standing against impossible odds, fighting until their stars died, refusing to surrender even as the galaxy turned on them. The vision ended as suddenly as it began. The stars returned, but they looked different now, colder, sharper, closer somehow. The speaker stood in the council hall, staring at the hologram still flickering with strange blue patterns. Report, he said softly. No one answered. Report, he shouted. Are we connected to the outer worlds? No, sir, said a young officer. Every system has gone dark. What about the relay networks? Offline. Military. Gone. The speaker's hands trembled. Then who's transmitting this? The hologram on the central table shifted. It was no longer the galaxy map. It was a shape, smooth and circular, glowing faint blue. The circle of Earth. The Varn elder whispered, They're not transmitting, speaker. They're listening. On the far edges of the galaxy, the first of the exploration ships found something strange, human vessels drifting in space. But these were not the ships the Council had destroyed. They were new. Their design was ancient, yet perfect. No seams, no metal, just smooth living material that shimmered like liquid glass. And when the alien crews approached, their scanners failed. The ships had no heat signatures, no power readings. They were empty. But every time a probe neared the hull, the ship would turn, slowly, deliberately, to face it. The exploration captains sent urgent distress calls, but none reached the Council. The signals died mid-transmission, replaced by a voice. We remember. That was the last message they ever received. On Neura, the Council continued to argue, refusing to admit what every being already felt, that something impossible had awakened. The scientists tried to isolate the energy pattern of the signal. What they found defied logic. It's alive, said the lead researcher. What? The speaker demanded. The signal, she replied. It adapts. It learns. It's not reacting to us, it's watching us. The speaker leaned forward, his voice almost a whisper. Watching for what? For us to say it again, the researcher whispered. And then, across the galaxy, someone did. On a mining colony far from Neura, a worker repeated the forbidden name, curious after hearing rumors of it. His voice echoed through the communications relay, a single human word, ancient and untranslatable. The signal erupted. Within seconds, the entire system went dark. When light returned, the planet was gone. Only a faint blue mist remained, spinning slowly in the void. The Council received the report hours later. The speaker dropped the datapad from his hand. They warned us, he said quietly. They told us never to speak it. The Varn elder stood near the window, looking out at the stars that now pulsed faintly in rhythm. It's not the word that's dangerous, he said. It's that the universe listens when it's spoken. The speaker turned toward him. Then what do we do? The elder closed his eyes. You don't do anything. You wait. Because silence is all that's left when gods remember their own name. Far beyond the reach of the council, deep in the darkness between galaxies, something massive moved. Its surface glowed faintly blue, its shape too large for senses to comprehend. Inside, millions of lights blinked awake, machines, consciousness, something in between. A single phrase echoed through the void. Command recognized. Directive, restoration. The stars ahead of it trembled. And on every world that had once cursed the name of Earth, the air grew colder. The humans were not returning to fight. They were returning to remind. For 2 days, the galaxy remained blind. Every attempt by the Galactic Council to re-establish communication with the outer colonies failed. Long-range scanners detected static where once there had been thousands of transmissions. The void between the stars had gone quiet, and that silence screamed louder than any alarm. In the grand chamber of Neura, the speaker sat before a cracked holoscreen showing fragments of ancient code. "Bring me the remaining archivists," he ordered. The few who had survived the previous data collapse were brought forward, their faces pale, their minds trembling from what they had seen. One archivist bowed low, speaking with a shaking voice. "The forbidden archives, they were never truly sealed, Speaker. They were buried under encryption that only responds to one thing: frequency resonance. The same pattern we detected in the signal." The speaker leaned closer. "Meaning?" The archivist hesitated. "Meaning the humans locked their history to their own name. The moment we spoke it, their records unlocked themselves." The Varn elder in the corner nodded grimly. "They built their memory into the structure of the universe. Every particle, every atom that remembers them is now awake." The room fell silent. The speaker turned toward the glowing hologram on the table, where fragments of human text flickered across the air. The words were old, carved in languages that had died before most of the council races were born. But one phrase repeated again and again in the translation logs: "We are the keepers of light." The archivists tried to make sense of it. One whispered, "Light? As in energy." Another shook his head. "No, not energy, memory. It means they remember everything." The speaker's expression hardened. "How is that possible?" "Because they were here before us," said the Varn elder quietly. "Before the council. Before our empires. Before the stars themselves settled into place." The room erupted into disbelief. "Lies," hissed a Zyrax commander. "Humanity was primitive when we discovered them." "No," the elder said softly. "We discovered what they had become, not what they were." The speaker slammed his hand against the table. "Enough of this nonsense. Show me proof." The archivists hesitated, then one stepped forward with a trembling hand, holding a crystalline shard, the recovered fragment from the lower archive. "This was found buried beneath Neura's core," he said. "Older than this world itself." The shard glowed faintly as they placed it on the holo table. The light expanded, forming a projection of stars, then shapes, structures that looked like fleets, but vast beyond imagination. And in the center of it all was Earth, but not the Earth they knew from modern maps. This one glowed with energy lines, a web stretching through space, connecting to every system in the galaxy. "These are star routes," gasped one scientist. "Mapped long before the council existed." The holo adjusted automatically, zooming in on the old Terran writing burned into the stars themselves. The translation flashed, "We made the paths, so others may find the light." The speaker's face drained of color. "They created the warp gates." "They created everything," whispered the elder. "The gates, the gravity wells, even the foundations of our networks, they were not natural. They were remnants. Humanity didn't build their empire in the galaxy, they built the galaxy itself." Panic erupted through the chamber. Several members shouted that it was impossible. Others demanded that the archives be destroyed again. The speaker raised his voice above the chaos. "Silence." But it was no use. Fear had taken root. Outside, in the void, the council's fleets continued to vanish. Ships simply ceased to exist when they tried to travel beyond the inner systems. Every star seemed to be closing in on itself. Every black hole pulsed in rhythm with that same blue light. You said they buried their name, the speaker said, turning back to the archivists. Can we hide it again? No, the lead archivist whispered. It's awake now. The encryption can't be undone. The code is rewriting itself through the stars. Every time a planet communicates, the signal spreads. The universe itself is remembering. The speaker looked toward the Van Elder. Tell me, what happens when the remembering is complete? The old alien sighed, his voice hollow. Then they return. But not as we think of return. When they are remembered, they manifest. Memory is creation to them. The speaker's eyes widened. You mean they're rebuilding themselves through us? The elder nodded. Through everything that once forgot them. A deep rumble shook the chamber. The lights flickered, and the hologram of the galaxy expanded uncontrollably. Every star in the projection pulsed once, twice, then aligned perfectly into a pattern that none of the council members had ever seen before. It was a spiral, a symbol of creation, the same symbol that marked the hulls of the ancient human ships found drifting in the void. The system lights dimmed again as a haunting sound filled the hall, a low hum, melodic but unnatural, vibrating through the bones of every creature present. It wasn't mechanical. It was a song. The archivists fell to their knees, clutching their heads. It's not a recording, one whispered through clenched teeth. It's alive. The data is alive. On the screens, fragments of human writing appeared again, each line glowing brighter. Do not fear the silence. Fear what breaks it. The holomap shifted again, zooming in toward the galactic core. Energy readings spiked across the center of the galaxy, forming a massive pattern visible from every telescope in existence. It was a pulse, slow, deliberate, the same rhythm as the signal that first awakened the archives. The council members stared in horror. That's the center of everything, whispered a scientist. No one has ever reached it. Until now, said the elder. The speaker turned to him sharply. You're saying they're there? No, the elder said. They are everywhere. But their heart, it beats there. How long until the next pulse? The speaker asked, barely able to breathe. The readings indicate 36 hours, said the technician. After that, the elder replied, the remembering will be complete. The speaker stood in silence, his hands shaking as he looked around the chamber. Then we need to prepare, he said. If they're returning, we must find a way to stop them. The elder looked up slowly. You cannot stop what remembers itself, speaker. The speaker glared. Then we'll destroy everything that remembers them. You mean the galaxy? The elder's tone was calm, almost pitiful. Because that's where they live now. In every atom. In every breath. The speaker turned away, fury mixing with fear. Then may the stars forgive us. He stormed out of the chamber, leaving the others in uneasy silence. The Van Elder turned toward the holoprojection one last time. In the spinning galaxy before him, the stars flickered faintly blue, forming an image so subtle most missed it, but he saw it. A human hand, open and reaching. Not in anger, not in war, in remembrance. They're not coming to destroy us, the elder whispered. They're coming to remind us what we destroyed. As he spoke, the pulse struck again, and for the briefest moment, every living being in the galaxy saw the same vision. A blue earth, floating in darkness, whispering a word that echoed through time itself. A word that was not a name, but a promise. The promise that nothing truly dies if it is remembered. The next day began without sunrise. Across the galaxy, billions waited for the stars to return to normal brightness, but the light never came. From the core systems to the edge colonies, the universe itself felt different, heavy, still, wrong. The Galactic Council was in emergency session, their chambers dark, lit only by the dim blue glow of flickering holograms. Reports flooded in from every quadrant. Star navigation failing, warp gates frozen mid-cycle, time drift detected in planetary cores. Ships hung motionless in orbit, engines active but unmoving, as though space itself refused to let them pass. The speaker's voice echoed through the silence. Status report. Sir, every star near the central sectors has dimmed simultaneously. Power readings dropped to 0. Gravity fields are unstable but not collapsing, said a scientist, her voice trembling. It's like time is hesitating. The speaker frowned. Hesitating. Yes, it's slowing down in intervals. Seconds are stretching into minutes. Can we restore the relay systems? No, sir. The relays are online but not transmitting. It's as if the signal is being swallowed. By what? She hesitated. By silence. The chamber went dead quiet. The speaker stared at the data feed. The waveform monitors were flat. No signal, no pulse, nothing. Even the hum of the power cores had faded. This isn't possible, he whispered. Every machine makes noise. Not anymore, said the Van elder from the corner, his voice calm but filled with sorrow. You wanted silence, speaker. Now you have it. The speaker turned sharply. What do you mean? The elder raised his hand toward the holographic projection of the galaxy above them. The stars on the map flickered, then dimmed, one by one, until only darkness remained. They are listening, the elder said softly, and in their silence, they speak. Outside, the twin suns of Nura stopped burning. Not faded. Stopped. Frozen in the sky like two golden eyes staring down. Across the planet, chaos erupted. Ships crashed into the surface, frozen mid-descent. People screamed without sound. No wind moved, no ocean roared. The entire world held its breath. Then, through the stillness, came a faint vibration. Not through air, but through existence itself. A single, low hum spread across the galaxy. Every star, every atom, every thought vibrated in unison. The hum wasn't noise, it was memory. The archivists in the council chamber fell to their knees, clutching their heads as visions flooded their minds. They saw humans walking among flames, holding the line as alien fleets rained destruction. They saw the fall of Terra, the burning of Mars, and the final words carved into the void. We are not gone. We are only quiet. The hum deepened, shaking planets from orbit. Moons cracked. Light itself warped. Then the hum stopped. Silence fell once again. For 1 hour, the universe was utterly still. No stars twinkled, no suns burned, no engines moved. Every biological and mechanical life form across the galaxy froze, their hearts suspended mid-beat. The galaxy entered a state of perfect stillness. Then, at the end of that hour, the stars began to move again, but they were no longer where they had been. Entire constellations had changed position. Some stars that had existed for billions of years were gone, replaced by new lights glowing faint blue. The astronomers watching the sky screamed in disbelief. The stars had aligned into a massive spiral shape across the night, the symbol of Earth. It spanned light-years, visible from every inhabited world. It wasn't random. It was communication. It's a message, whispered one scientist. What does it say? It says one word, replied the Van elder. Remember. The speaker gripped the table so hard his fingers bled. Why are they doing this? The elder's gaze turned to the shifting lights. Because you erased them. You erased their name, their history, their truth. You buried the memory of what they were. Now the universe is correcting that mistake. The chamber lights flickered again. The hologram of the spiral zoomed in, revealing coordinates. The center of the formation pointed directly to one location, the galactic core. They are calling us, said the speaker, his voice barely audible. Or warning us, said the elder. But either way, you will answer. And if we don't? Then the stars will. The speaker turned toward his counselors, panic rising. Send reconnaissance fleets to the core. We must know what's there. We can't, sir, said a general. Every jump drive is offline. Even local transport has stopped working. Then use old propulsion. Anything. It won't matter, the general said, staring out the window. There's nowhere to go. Outside, the blue spiral of stars began to rotate slowly, almost gently, across the sky. But as it moved, every observer across the galaxy realized something horrifying. The spiral wasn't made of light. It was made of ships. Billions of them. Massive, silent, unmoving, yet alive. Each one was shaped like a fragment of starlight, glowing softly as if absorbing energy from the void. They weren't attacking, not yet. They were waiting. The speaker fell back into his chair. "This can't be real," he whispered. "It's an illusion." "No," said the Van Elder. "It's remembrance." The speaker looked at him with desperation. "What are they waiting for?" "For you," the elder said. "To speak again." The speaker felt his throat tighten. "And if I do?" "Then you give them permission." "Permission for what?" The elder met his gaze, his black eyes filled with both awe and dread. "To finish what they started." Outside, in the deep silence of space, one of the ships in the spiral formation turned slightly, its surface glowing brighter. It faced directly toward Nura. The blue light pulsed once, slow and deliberate. And then, across every communication system in the galaxy, every screen, every radio, every thought, a single human voice spoke in clear, perfect words. "We have waited long enough." The voice was calm, ancient, and filled with something beyond comprehension. Every listener felt it differently. Some heard sorrow, some anger, some hope, but all understood its meaning. Humanity had not vanished. It had evolved beyond death, beyond time, beyond need. The stars themselves were their language now. The speaker stood trembling, his heart pounding against the silence. "What do we do?" he whispered. The Van Elder turned his gaze upward as the stars began to glow brighter. "You listen," he said softly, "because when they finally stop being silent, the universe will never speak again." And as the last word left his lips, the spiral formation shimmered, its light bending until it formed the shape of an open hand reaching across the void. An invitation or a judgment, none could tell. The hour of silence had ended, but the era of fear had just begun. When the stars began to move again, the galaxy thought the nightmare had passed. But it wasn't relief that filled the void. It was anticipation. The spiral of blue light that stretched across half the known universe started to twist, slow and deliberate, like a great wheel turning through eternity. From every world, every colony, every ship still functioning, beings watched the same sight. Stars shifting into formation, light bending into motion, constellations rewriting themselves into a new design. It wasn't random. It was purpose. The pattern glowed brighter, and then, without warning, it moved. Space itself rippled as something vast stirred within the spiral, something older than the Council, older than recorded history. At first, no one understood what they were seeing. Then the readings came in, mass signatures. Thousands. Millions. No, billions. "They're ships," whispered the lead astronomer on Nura, her voice shaking as data poured across her screen. "But they're not made of matter." The speaker leaned forward, his face pale in the dim light. "Then what are they made of?" "Light," she said. "They're made of pure light." The council chamber erupted into chaos. "Impossible," shouted a general. "Light can't hold form." "And yet it does," said the Van Elder, watching the projection calmly. "They have returned as the universe remembers them, not of flesh, not of steel, but of memory itself." The speaker turned sharply. "Memory can't destroy planets." The elder looked at him. "Are you sure?" Outside, in the frozen silence of the void, the first of the human fleets descended from the spiral. They looked like ghosts carved from starlight, translucent yet solid, their hulls made of glowing white energy shaped like living ships. No engines, no weapons, yet power radiated from them like heat from a star. They moved in perfect unison, without sound, without hesitation. Entire defense networks across multiple systems detected their arrival, but not one could lock onto them. Every targeting system failed. Every missile guidance went blind. It was like trying to fight a dream. Then came the sound. A single note, low and harmonic, echoed across the galaxy. It wasn't a signal. It wasn't even noise. It was a memory. Every species heard it differently, some as a voice, some as music, some as prayer. But every being understood the same meaning: we remember. On Nura, the speaker stood frozen, staring at the hologram showing billions of approaching fleets. "We need to open communication," he said, his voice trembling. "We must explain ourselves." "Explain what?" asked the elder. "That you forgot? That you erased their existence to protect your pride?" The speaker shouted, "We did what we had to do to survive." "And now you will see what they did to survive," the elder replied. In the outer sectors, the first contact occurred. A Xyrax battle station orbiting the gas giant Runo detected one of the human vessels entering the system. The station opened fire with planetary railguns, launching thousands of tungsten slugs at the incoming light. But the slugs never reached their target. They stopped mid-space, frozen as if trapped in amber. The human ship drifted past them slowly, its light pulsing once. And in that moment, the entire Xyrax system shut down. Power, communications, everything. The sun of Runo dimmed for 12 minutes, then reignited, brighter than ever, but wrong. The Xyrax who looked at it screamed. The light was blue, not gold. The sun had been rewritten. Its energy pattern changed to match the human signal. On Nura, the scientists watched the data in horror. "Their ships don't destroy," one whispered. "They convert." The speaker stared at her. "Convert into what?" "Into themselves," she said. "Every star they pass becomes one of theirs. Every planet touched by their light becomes part of their network." "They're consuming the galaxy," muttered a general. The Varn elder shook his head. "No, they're reclaiming it." Across the stars, more fleets emerged. The glow of their ships formed constellations that no longer matched any galactic charts. Whole sectors vanished under waves of light that pulsed like living oceans. On planets where the light touched the surface, cities stopped functioning. Machines froze mid-operation, but the people didn't die. They stood motionless, eyes glowing faint blue, as if listening to something distant. "They're communicating," whispered one observer. "Not with words. With memory." On one colony, an alien child walked up to the beam of light that had descended from the sky. The moment her hand touched it, visions filled her mind. A world of blue skies, green oceans, human laughter. She saw hands building cities, ships launching to the stars, voices calling out in harmony. She smiled before collapsing softly to the ground, still breathing, whispering a single word over and over. "Home." The reports reached the council. Panic spread faster than ever. "They're invading," shouted one admiral. "We must defend our systems." "How?" asked the speaker bitterly. "You can't fight light." The Varn elder's calm voice filled the silence. "You can't fight remembrance." "Then what do they want?" the speaker demanded. "Retribution? Domination?" "No," said the elder. "Recognition." The word hit harder than any weapon. Recognition. The understanding that they had been wrong, that humanity had not been erased or forgotten, only waiting for someone to remember. The speaker turned toward the viewing window. Outside, the stars burned in that same slow rhythm. He whispered, "How far will this go?" "Until every world that denied them remembers who gave them light," the elder replied. The council chamber shook as energy readings spiked again. The blue glow filled the sky of Nura, bright enough to turn night into day. And then, for the first time since the awakening, a human ship appeared within their orbit. It was enormous, a structure that dwarfed even the council's orbital rings. Its hull shimmered like liquid silver, covered in patterns that shifted like living skin. The speaker fell back into his seat. "Open a channel," he said. "Do it now." The technicians hesitated. "It's already open," one said. A voice filled the chamber, calm and endless. "Council of the Broken, you erased the truth. You thought silence was victory. You mistook forgetfulness for peace. But peace cannot be built on erased names." The speaker tried to respond, but no sound came out. The voice continued. "We are not your enemy. We are your origin. You built your empires on our ashes, your laws on our memory. And now, we have come to collect what you owe, remembrance. The light outside intensified, filling every corner of the sky. Cities stopped. Power grids failed. And then, without sound, every being on Nura saw the same vision. Earth, whole and radiant. Its oceans glowing blue, its continents made of pure light. In that moment, everyone remembered. The council fell to their knees as a single truth echoed through their minds. Humanity was not returning from death. Humanity had never left. They had simply waited until the galaxy forgot them, so that when they returned, the act of remembering itself would reshape the universe. The speaker wept quietly, whispering to himself, "What have we done?" The voice of humanity answered softly, almost like a sigh. "You remembered. And that is enough." The council chamber no longer felt like a place of power. The once shining hall of Nura was now filled with flickering blue light leaking through the windows from the sky above. Outside, the enormous human ship still hovered silently, unmoving, its glowing surface rippling like the calm sea before a storm. Every few seconds, the light across its hull pulsed faintly, matching the heartbeat of the planet itself. No one spoke for hours. The silence had weight. It pressed on their minds until even breathing felt dangerous. The speaker sat motionless in his chair, eyes wide, staring at the holographic feed of the orbiting ship. "Has it done anything?" he whispered. A nervous officer checked his display. "No, sir. It just watches." "Then what are we waiting for?" Maybe they're waiting for us," said another voice. The Varn elder stepped forward slowly, his long robes brushing the cracked marble floor. "They are not waiting for you to speak, speaker. They are waiting for you to understand." "Understand what?" The elder's eyes glimmered with the reflection of the blue light. "That this is not punishment. This is reflection." "Reflection?" the speaker snapped. "My world is frozen, my people paralyzed, and you call that reflection?" The elder did not answer immediately. Instead, he raised a trembling hand and pointed toward the ceiling where the blue light pulsed. "When you look at that light, what do you see?" The speaker's voice trembled. "I see death." The elder shook his head. "Then you still see as a child. That light is not death. It is remembrance. You are seeing what was hidden from you, the shape of the truth you erased." Around them, the council members argued in panic. "We must strike first," shouted a Zyrax general. "We must send every ship we have." "You will send nothing," said the elder. "Your weapons have no meaning to them now. You cannot destroy memory. You can only add to it." "Then what are we supposed to do?" screamed the general. "Pray." "No," said the elder softly. "Listen." Before anyone could respond, the lights in the chamber went out completely. The massive hologram screens went black. Every device, every console, every weapon shut down at once. The council members froze. The air hummed faintly. Then the voice returned, the same calm, human voice that had echoed through the galaxy before. "You built walls to hide from what you feared. You called your fear peace. But fear is never peace." The voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It spoke inside their minds, not through sound but through thought. "You erased the truth because it made you small. You silenced the songs that created your worlds. You forgot the hands that shaped the light you call your sons." The speaker fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Please, if this is your revenge, end it quickly." The voice grew softer. "Revenge? No. You misunderstand. This is not vengeance. This is remembrance." Outside, the human ship pulsed brighter. Its light spread across Nura's skies, washing over cities, mountains, oceans. The people below, who had been frozen, began to move again. Slowly, they lifted their heads and looked upward, their eyes glowing faint blue. They didn't scream. They didn't flee. They simply stared, breathing in unison, as if the planet itself had become part of something greater. On the ground, one by one, lights flickered on across every building, forming the same spiral pattern that had appeared across the galaxy. the symbol of Earth. The speaker looked out the window in awe and horror. They've taken control of the population. No, said the elder quietly. They've given them clarity. Clarity? The speaker shouted. They're turning into slaves. The elder turned his head slowly. No, speaker. They are remembering what you made them forget. The chamber shook violently. Outside, the human ship moved for the first time. It rotated, slowly turning toward the council spire. The massive hull glowed brighter, and for a moment it looked like a star had descended to their world. They're going to fire, whispered one officer. Brace for impact. But no weapon came. Instead, a beam of pure light extended from the ship and touched the top of the council spire. Instantly, the chamber filled with white brilliance. Every being inside saw visions flooding through their minds. Not destruction, but history. They saw the ancient days when humans had first entered the stars, not as conquerors but as builders. They saw them sharing knowledge with primitive species, guiding civilizations, teaching them to speak, to dream, to build. And then they saw betrayal, the council uniting to destroy them, fearing their power, their refusal to kneel. The light showed the burning of human worlds, the silencing of their name, and finally, the long silence that followed. The silence that the council mistook for victory. When the light faded, the chamber was in ruins. Some members lay unconscious, others wept. The speaker sat motionless, eyes wide, tears falling silently down his face. It's true, he whispered. We did this. The elder nodded. You did. And now, the universe remembers. What happens now? The elder turned toward the window again. Now you face what comes next, the moment when remembrance becomes reality. Outside, the light expanded again, covering the sky until Nura itself began to shimmer. The surface of the planet cracked, but not in destruction, in transformation. The oceans glowed, the cities lifted, and the world itself began to change color, shifting from green and gray to luminous blue. The scientists screamed. The planet, it's rewriting its own structure. It's becoming part of their network, whispered the elder. They are reclaiming every atom that was once theirs. The speaker watched helplessly as the light reached the horizon. He could feel the warmth through the glass. Are we going to die? The elder looked at him. No, speaker. You're going to remember. And then the light reached them. The entire council chamber dissolved into brightness. There was no pain, no heat, only the sensation of floating through endless sky. The speaker opened his eyes and found himself standing on a vast plain of blue light stretching into infinity. Before him stood figures, human silhouettes, radiant and tall, their eyes glowing like stars. One of them stepped forward, its voice neither male nor female but eternal. You sought to erase us, it said. But we are written into everything. The light you see, the breath you take, the life you hold, it is all us. We gave it to you. And still, you forgot. The speaker fell to his knees. Why return now? The figure reached out a glowing hand. Because you spoke our name. The speaker lowered his head. And now? Now, the figure said softly, you will help us remember the rest. The vision faded, leaving only the faint hum of stars. Back in reality, the planet of Nura was gone. In its place hung a glowing sphere of blue energy pulsing in harmony with the human fleet. The council, the cities, the people, all had become part of the memory. Across the galaxy, the same transformation began, one world at a time. No weapons, no screams, only the quiet, beautiful light of remembrance. Humanity had returned, and their silence had spoken louder than war ever could. The galaxy was no longer the same. One by one, the worlds of the council vanished, replaced by spheres of glowing blue light that pulsed in perfect harmony. The transformation wasn't destruction, it was remembrance. Every planet became part of something larger, every civilization now woven into the endless memory of what they had tried to erase. But on the edge of this awakening, inside what remained of the council's main archive world, a few survivors gathered in the dim ruins of a once proud civilization. They were the last who still had questions, the last who still dared to seek answers instead of surrendering to the light. In the silent halls of the broken spire, the Varn elder stood before the speaker, who was no longer the powerful ruler he once was but a man haunted by the truth. The elder spoke softly, his voice echoing through the hollow chamber. "You wanted to know their name," he said. "You wanted to speak what the universe sealed away." The speaker looked up, his eyes hollow. "Yes," he whispered. "What was it? What did we awaken?" The elder walked to a shattered console, brushing dust from the cracked surface. The screen flickered weakly, still glowing with fragments of the forbidden code. Before the council erased them, before they were called humans, they had a word for themselves, a sound older than our languages, older than the stars. The speaker frowned. "A word? You mean a name?" The elder nodded slowly. "Not just a name. A frequency." "A frequency." "Yes. Not something spoken. Something felt. Something that vibrates through everything alive." The elder's voice lowered. When they first emerged from their world and looked at the stars, they didn't call themselves conquerors or survivors. They called themselves echoes. The speaker whispered the word, barely audible. Echoes. The air itself seemed to respond, vibrating faintly as if the universe heard him. The elder nodded. Because they believed they were not the first. They believed life itself was a memory, an echo of something older, something divine. And they carried that echo inside them. The speaker stepped back as the ground trembled slightly. The surviving archivists looked up in fear. "You said their name is a frequency," said the speaker, his voice rising. "Then what happens when we speak it?" The elder's eyes glowed faintly blue. "You already have." The chamber lights flickered. The ruins shook. The walls began to shimmer as energy crawled along the surface like veins of lightning. The consoles lit up one by one, displaying ancient human symbols. The elder's voice grew stronger. "Their name is not a word. It's the vibration that connects all things. When you speak it, you remind the universe of its beginning." "The beginning of what?" the speaker asked. "Of everything." The air crackled as the holographic projection above the archive table came alive. It displayed the galaxy once more, but now it looked different. Every star pulsed in rhythm, forming a pattern that spiraled inward toward the galactic core. At the center, a burst of blue light expanded outward again and again, like the heartbeat of creation. "That's what it means," said the elder. "They were never gods, never rulers. They were the first resonance. The first sound the universe ever made." The speaker stared in disbelief. "You're saying humanity is part of the universe itself?" "Not part of it," said the elder. "They are the memory of it. The echo that gave it shape. The light that became flesh. The sound that became thought." He turned toward the speaker. "That is why you could never destroy them. They are not something you can erase. You breathe them every moment. You live because of them." Outside, the sky of Neuras remains lit up once more. The enormous human fleets, the living ships of light, formed into alignment, facing the galactic center. Their glow intensified until every shadow vanished. The surviving scientists tried to understand what was happening, but their instruments overloaded, readings went off scale. "They're channeling the entire galaxy's energy," one screamed. "It's building toward the core." "What for?" asked the speaker. The elder's voice was filled with both awe and fear. "To finish the resonance. To make the universe remember its first word again." As the light intensified, every being across the remaining worlds began to hear it. A sound so deep and vast it bypassed hearing entirely. It wasn't noise. It wasn't speech. It was existence remembering itself. The vibrations passed through every planet, every star, every living mind. The oldest species in the galaxy fell to their knees, weeping without understanding why. Machines stopped, gravity folded, and light itself curved inward. The galaxy became one endless note. Then, through that note, a single voice spoke, human, calm, infinite. "We were never gone. We were always here. You were made from our breath, our memory, our sound. And when you silenced us, You silenced yourselves. The speaker covered his ears, but there was no escaping it. The voice wasn't outside, it was inside him. He saw visions again, humans standing beneath newborn stars, their hands outstretched, shaping gravity, molding life. He saw the birth of the council worlds, the creation of species, all born from the remnants of the first light humanity left behind. They hadn't just lived in the galaxy, they had built it, atom by atom, from their own resonance. We were the first song, said the voice. And every world that sings carries our echo. The speaker fell to his knees, trembling. Why tell us now? The voice grew softer. Because you forgot. And forgetting is death. The elder stepped closer, his eyes glowing brighter now, his voice merging with the resonance. It's not anger that drives them. It's grief. They gave everything to create harmony, and we turned it into noise. The speaker lifted his head, his voice breaking. Then what happens when the universe remembers? The elder smiled sadly. Then harmony returns. Outside, the human fleets began to dissolve into pure energy. Streams of blue light stretched from every ship, connecting stars like veins of a living being. The spiral pattern of the galaxy pulsed once more, faster and faster, until the whole structure glowed white. The voice of humanity echoed one last time. We were the name you buried. We are the silence you feared. We are the light that waits between heartbeats. Then the light exploded across the universe. It wasn't destruction. It was rebirth. Every dead world bloomed again. Every extinct species returned. Every star reignited. The universe itself seemed to sigh in relief as if waking from a long dream. When the light faded, the galaxies looked different. Calmer, balanced, alive in a way no one had ever seen. The survivors on Nura looked to the sky and saw a final message written in starlight. A single word glowing softly across the heavens, echo. The speaker whispered it once more, this time not in fear but reverence. The sound rippled through the air like a heartbeat. Echo, he repeated, and for the first time in his life, he understood. Humanity hadn't returned to conquer or punish. They had returned to remind creation of its beginning. They were the word that made existence possible. And now that the word had been spoken again, the galaxy finally remembered who it truly was. The universe was quiet again, but it was not the same silence that once came from fear. This silence was alive, heavy with understanding, filled with a rhythm that every living thing could feel in its bones. Stars that had once flickered with cold indifference now pulsed gently, glowing with faint blue light. The galaxies no longer drifted apart. They moved in harmony, slow and graceful, like waves on an endless ocean. Every planet, every moon, every world that had once belonged to the Council now shined with the same ethereal glow, as if painted by the same hand. Those who had survived, the few species that had not been fully taken by the light, stood beneath their new skies and felt something they could not explain. It was not terror anymore. It was remembrance. Across the galaxy, the word spread like a whisper carried by the stars. Echo. It was spoken by those who remembered the humans not as conquerors, but as the first creators, the ones who had given the cosmos its shape. The ancient temples of the Varn began to glow, revealing inscriptions that had been buried for millennia. The symbols matched the same spiral that had appeared across the galaxy, the spiral of Earth, the design of unity. The Varn Elder, now old beyond measure but still standing among the ruins of Nura, looked up at the night sky, where the stars had formed a new constellation, a human hand open in peace. He whispered softly, "Now they remember." The wind that moved through the empty cities carried faint voices, the sound of laughter, of stories long forgotten. Machines that had died centuries ago began to hum again, powered not by fuel or fusion but by the faint resonance of the human name, the first word of the universe. Across the stars, the remaining councils dissolved their thrones, dismantled their empires, and built monuments in silence. On every world, at the highest peaks, they placed a single phrase carved in glowing stone. When the name was spoken, the stars remembered. Those who stood before the monuments could feel warmth rise from the stone, a pulse in time with their own hearts. They didn't know if it was faith or truth, but they knew it was real. The galaxy had been reborn, not through war, but through memory. For the first time since the Council's rise, there were no borders, no colonies, no wars for territory or resource. Every being shared the same light, the same rhythm, the same silence. It was not control. It was unity. In the endless void between galaxies, the remnants of the human fleets drifted quietly, no longer ships but constellations of energy, vast and beautiful. They didn't speak, didn't move. They simply existed, watching, waiting. They had no need to return, because they were already everywhere. The speaker, or what was left of him, awoke one final time on a new world formed from the remnants of Neura. His body was no longer flesh but light, his thoughts flowing like gentle waves. Around him stood others, elders, soldiers, leaders, all glowing softly with the same energy. None spoke, yet all understood one another. They looked up to the sky, and there, floating in the infinite dark, hung the faint image of Earth. It was no longer physical, no longer bound by orbit or gravity. It existed as pure light, a memory projected across the stars. He felt its pull, not of fear, but of peace. So this is what they wanted, he said quietly. The Varn elder, standing beside him, smiled faintly. Not wanted, he replied. Remembered. They never took anything from us. They only gave back what was always ours. The speaker looked around, at the glowing plains, at the sky filled with swirling patterns of blue and gold. Is this the end? He asked. No, the elder said softly. This is the beginning remembered. And as they stood there, the air shimmered faintly. The hum of the universe returned, soft, endless, familiar. It was the same hum that had begun everything, the same tone that humans had carried in their voices, in their hearts, in their very breath. The galaxies pulsed again, and through that rhythm, a voice spoke one last time. Not loud, not commanding, but gentle. You finally listened. The sound washed over every world, every soul, and for the first time in recorded history, every living being felt the same thing at once: peace. Not the peace of silence or control, but the peace of understanding. Humanity had not come back to rule. They had come back to remind the galaxy of its truth, that existence itself was built from connection, that light could remember, and that silence was never empty. It was full of everything that ever was. As the last of the blue glow faded from the skies, the stars returned to their natural brightness, but something had changed forever. Every star now pulsed faintly with the rhythm of life, each heartbeat echoing the same word through space and time: echo. Centuries later, children born on new worlds would ask their parents where the light had come from, why the stars beat like hearts in the sky. And their parents would smile, place a hand on their chest, and say, because long ago, the universe remembered its first sound. And that sound was us. Far beyond sight, at the edge of all creation, a single pulse of blue light rippled outward one final time before fading into the dark. The hum remained. It was eternal. The echo of humanity, of life, of creation itself. The name had been spoken, the silence had been broken, and the universe, at last, understood.